Welcome, detectives. My name is Jason Richards, Microsoft Technical Trainer and Data Detective. As we introduce the Fabric service, we'll explore its experiences and how it works with data. We'll also cover how this affects how our data teams work together to solve analytics mysteries. Finally, we'll look at what's required to get started with Fabric. Ready to start cracking some analytic cases? Let's get started. The first mystery we need to solve has two parts to it, so we'll call this case the service and data conundrum. Let's look at the clues related to the services first. Look at this image. First thing you may notice is that there's a lot on here. I need my magnifying glass to see it all. This is a visual representation of all the different services related to big data, machine learning, and AI. While there is some overlap, it's a lot to parse through. But Jason, we're here for analytics, not all this. Well, here are the options that cover data analytics. Still quite a few services that are available. Now imagine we're tasked to engineer an analytics solution. You have choices of open source, proprietary, and even internally developed services. And then I have other considerations like, will these services natively integrate? What about monitoring costs for all these services? Or how secure is my data when sending and receiving from all these services? And do I go with cloud, virtual, or on-prem? It's a lot. Now, Microsoft Azure offers solutions that allow us to build analytics solutions utilizing platform as a service options. But we still need to do some integration of these different platforms, especially when we're dealing with a Lambda architecture, an architecture that requires both batch and streaming workflows. This is where Azure Fabric comes in. With Microsoft Fabric, you don't have to spend all of your time combining various services from different vendors. Instead, you can use a single product that's easy to understand, set up, create, and manage. Fabric offers persona-optimized experiences and tools in an integrated user interface. These tools, or analytics experiences, are designed to accomplish specific tasks and work together seamlessly. Fabric's experiences include Data Factory for data integration, combining Power Query with the scale of Azure Data Factory to move and transform data. Synapse Data Engineering with a Spark platform for data transformation at scale. Synapse Data Warehouse with industry-leading SQL performance and scale to support data use. Synapse Data Science with Azure Machine Learning and Spark for model training and execution tracking in a single scalable environment. Synapse Real-Time Analytics to query and analyze large volumes of data in real time. Power BI for translating data into decisions. And Data Activator, which at this time is in public preview, and it automatically takes actions when patterns or conditions are detected in changing data. So the mystery of disparate services is solved. But what about disparate data? OneLake can help us solve this mystery. OneLake is a unified, logical data lake designed to streamline collaboration and data management across an organization. Much like OneDrive for files, OneLake serves as the central hub for all analytics data. Here are the key clues about OneLake to help solve this mystery. The most significant aspect is the single data lake. Before OneLake, organizations often created multiple data lakes for different business groups, and that led to resource management challenges. OneLake simplifies this by providing a single data lake for the entire organization. Every Microsoft Fabric tenant automatically gets OneLake, ensuring consistency. OneCopy is a key component of OneLake that allows you to read data from a single copy without moving or duplicating data. Next, collaboration and governance. OneLake encourages collaboration while maintaining governance. Within a tenant, you can create workspaces, each tied to a specific region. Workspaces distribute ownership and access policies. Data items within workspaces allow tailored experiences for different roles, like Spark developers. Governance remains intact, but other parts of the organization can contribute to the OneLake. Next, it's open and compatible. OneLake is built on Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. It supports any file type, structured or unstructured, and stores data in a Delta Parquet format. Whether data is located via Spark or T-SQL, it contributes to the same data lake. OneLake also supports existing ADLS or Azure Data Lake Service Gen 2 APIs and SDKs. OneLake also allows creating shortcuts, embedded references to other files or storage locations. These shortcuts enable quick sourcing of existing cloud data without duplication. Because of the vast amount of proprietary, open source, and internally developed services, and the complex integrations between these services, often we find that data teams can't collaborate effectively. This creates data silos, and they can be frustrating. Let's look at the case we'll call siloed sleuthing. So here's our siloed data team. Our decision makers need additional items added to a dashboard. So they reach out to the data analyst to create the item. The data analyst is going to need data that isn't available to them, so they contact the data engineer to request the data they need. Turns out the data they're requesting requires a predictive model to generate the data the analyst needs, so the engineer emails the analyst to let them know. The analyst doesn't know how to create a predictive model, so they email the data scientist on staff to develop a model. Now, the data scientist needs to get back to the data engineer and request the data they need, which probably isn't clean, by the way, which will eventually get back to the data scientist. The data scientist builds the model and emails the analyst to let them know they have a production model ready. But we're just getting started. Now, the data analyst has no idea how to implement this model in a real-time scenario. So now the data analyst needs to email the data engineer again to assist in building a real-time analytics workflow for the solution. The data engineer creates the workflow, but finds that the service they selected requires a custom connector in order for the dashboard to receive the data. So now the data analyst needs to find someone who can duct tape all these systems together in order to build this one item in a dashboard. And by the time all this is done, the decision makers needs another minor change and the process begins again. Not to mention that all of this data is being shared in ways that aren't completely secure or requires additional security implementation to provide access to those who may not have had it before. This is how Fabric can weave our data systems together and crack the case wide open. We can break the silo mentality altogether and have all of our data team working in the same platform with the same data and with services that are inherently integrated with each other. Not to mention the ability to modify data accessibility more easily while still maintaining enterprise-level security and government standards. That's an easy case to solve. Our final case to solve we'll call the enablement enigma. If you're interested in using Fabric, you need to know how to enable it. Duh, Jason. Fabric must be enabled in your tenant, either by a Fabric admin, formerly known as a Power BI admin, a Power Platform admin, or a Microsoft 365 admin. Once Fabric is enabled, you need to assign workspaces to either premium per capacity or Fabric license mode. Workspaces are the containers where you store and manage your Fabric items, and OneLake is accessed via Fabric workspaces, so it's pretty important. To access Fabric, you can use the Fabric portal, which is a web-based interface that allows you to navigate between different Fabric experiences. Now it's time to put knowledge to practice. I'd like to introduce the DetectoLab 5000, aka my Surface laptop. Remember that Fabric is a web-based platform, so you don't need a 32 gigabit RAM, GPU accelerated, 1 terabyte SSD, 8-core processor system. to accomplish many tasks in Fabric. I can also work from just about anywhere, although they won't let me leave until I finish. So trust me there. Onward. Welcome in. Let's get started. So the goal of this experience that we're going to share right now is to try to get you familiar with the different, at a high level at least, the licensing options or capacity options that you're going to be dealing with when we're talking about deploying or enabling Fabric into your own environment. So I think the first thing to kind of point out, and this can be a complex decision for you to figure out, depending on whether or not you already have an existing Power BI instance or you need to create a brand new one. And we'll show you, I'll show you what to expect when you're dealing with all this in your own environments. But I think the first thing to kind of cover is the difference between capacities and licenses. So a capacity is an infrastructure for Fabric. This comes with compute power, right? So our compute power is essentially the capacity. The one lake is the storage, but we need to process our semantic models. We need to do, our Spark or SQL engine type of compute querying, and there's engines underneath of this. In order to utilize that capacity, we would enable a Fabric capacity. And you can see that the stock keeping units or SKUs for this, for Fabric, are F capacities. If you've ever dealt with Power BI capacities, they're similar to what this looks like. There's P1 and up. And you can see here that an F64 capacity matches a premium capacity. So what does this mean? This means that if you want premium features in your Fabric capacity, which are nice to have, especially at enterprise level scenarios, then you'll want a F64 capacity or higher. If you don't get those premium features in there. You can still create Fabric items, but if we're dealing with large amounts of data and some other collaborative or premium feature services, you won't have access to those. Now, licensing is a little bit different. So licenses, if you've ever dealt in the Power BI world, you got your free license, which just comes when you sign up for, when you have a Microsoft 365 account, a pro license, which allows sharing between individuals. And then you have your premium per user, which again comes with these premium features. Now, this is different than Fabric, right? These are Power BI licenses. And I believe what you can do is if you already have a premium per user or one of these individual type licenses, you can actually try Fabric on a trial basis, but eventually you're going to have to get Fabric capacity in order to work with the Fabric environment. But at least or at least this tells you some of the things that you can and can't do in Fabric with a certain level of Power BI licensing. So feel free to pause, take notes if you want to, if this is what you're dealing with. Same thing with the capacities. Go back, pause, look at those, and then come back. So how does this affect my stuff, or what am I going to experience when I'm dealing with these? So I'm going to go into my personal account. This is I have my browser associated with a personal account. It does have a, and I'm going to navigate to Power BI. It does have a work email associated with this from a Microsoft 365 license that I created. So I do have a work account, which means I have a tenant. The problem is that I don't have a Power BI license with this. So it's already prompting me to go ahead and do a Fabric free license. This will allow me to utilize Power BI from a free aspect, but I won't be able to create Fabric items, right? This will just allow me to do this. So if you experience this screen, this means that you essentially don't have a Power BI license, and it's telling you to deploy a Fabric workspace so you can use Power BI, right? For the free version, the free license version of it. Then you can upgrade it to the pro or premium per user or whatever, and still will have to utilize Fabric. And that's the next aspect that I wanted to show you. We'll go back into my environment. We'll go into Power BI. Now, a couple things I want to point out here is that I have my workspace. Let's go to all my workspaces. So I have different workspaces here. I have a My Workspace, which is my personal workspace. And then I have this embedded test one, which is Power BI premium content. And you can see here that I actually have this PBI training as Fabric content. So this is already enabled with Fabric. I can go into my workspace settings and change this, by the way, and I'll just do it to show you how this changes the effect of the licensing. So I have a, hold on. Oh, this is my workspace. That's why I'm not seeing that. So let's go into here and we'll do the workspace settings on this. And you can see that under the premium content, I have a Fabric trial. Let's switch this to my pro license, right? And we'll apply this from right now. And what you'll notice is that once that's done, when I go back into my workspaces, there's no designation here, not even for premium content. If I go back in here and I change my workspace settings to my premium per user, and close out of this, I have a diamond here that represents premium content, but you can see it's a Power BI premium per user content. So what does this mean? I got premium access, right? I can start creating stuff. Well, not necessarily. This gives me Power BI premium content, but if I go into a Fabric experience, say Data Factory, and I try to create a data pipeline, it's going to prompt me to go to start a Fabric trial. So it's not enabled for Fabric yet. So I need to make sure that it's enabled in this trial format. So what I need to do is I need to go back into my workspace. I can go in my workspace settings, and then I can try the trial. You can see that the trial is good for 60 days. After that point, they're giving you a taste of it, that the taste of working with Fabric. And then you can go select a capacity in order for you to do this. And that's the third part of this, is to create a capacity. And that's what we're going to do. You can see here is what right now, and we deploy capacities through Microsoft Azure. And I already have the ability to do this through here, but just so you know, you can do a search for Fabric, Microsoft Fabric here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Fabric capacity. So I have my subscription. I have a resource group here, which I'm using called Fabric Demo. We'll call this Data Detective. I got a brand uphold, right? And since my tenant is deployed in the West US 3 region, it's going to default me or automatically assume that this is the region I'm going to put this in. Now, what's the benefit of this? Well, one thing is that if you have regulatory requirements that require you to keep your data in certain regions, remember your OneLake is deployed in the region that your Fabric capacity is deployed in. So if we're tied into regulatory requirements of keeping data in place, then I can deploy several capacities in different regions, and then we're adhering to those regulatory requirements, which is awesome. Right? So I don't have to configure a whole bunch of different things in order to set this up. I just create a new capacity in a new region. That data stays in that region. I can look at that data. I can read the data in from it if that's what I need to do, but the data's staying in there. It's residing in that region, and we're not moving it out of there, hopefully. We can also change the capacity size. So I mentioned that premium capacity requires an F64, and that's what we're going to use here. Now, you may also notice the cost of this, and your mind is getting blown away, especially if you're a single user wanting to do this. Now, remember, this is for using premium capacity features. If you wanted to go with a smaller SKU, you can. The other thing about deploying a capacity is that these capacities are on demand, meaning I can pause it. I'll show you what that means when I get the capacity created. I like the settings of this. You can also see that we're selecting a Fabric capacity administrator. It could be me. It could be somebody else that's in the tenant itself. So they will know in the tenant who we can apply to that if I wanted to change this. So I could select a different admin if I wanted to. We'll review it. We'll create this. We'll let the magic of editing fast forward this through, although it doesn't take too long. But we'll let this create and we'll come back. Okay, so it looks like, our resource is created. So I'm going to go to the resource and just show you that, yes, look at this. So now I have the ability to pause this. It's on right now, so I'm being charged for it. This is for our compute. Remember, I can pause this. I don't lose any of the data, right? We're just pausing the compute experience for this particular instance. But there's some things that I can do from here, like provide some access control options. I can scale this up and down so that I don't have to delete and create a new instance in order for me to upsize or downsize my capacity. Maybe I overestimated how much capacity I need. We deployed it. We're finding that we're not using, we're using like 20% of the capabilities of the capacity itself. So I might want to scale that back a little bit. If we're using like 80% of the capacity, or we're always tipping out, or we may be experiencing throttling, something of that nature, then we might need to scale that up. But I don't need to run through this whole process over or risk deleting things in order for me to get a new capacity. I just scale it up or down, which is awesome. So this is where we're going to leave this for now. We'll initiate this into Power BI later, but I do want to take a quick tour through the web-based experience, just so that you have an idea of where things are going to navigate to. One of the first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to take off that filter so that you can see up at the top, because I'm going to start here and move along to the side. So first thing you notice here are navigations, right? So, or notifications. So anytime alert is triggered, if we delete items, if we create items, certain things that happen, those create notifications, those show up here. We also have our settings. We'll get to these in another video, but this is where I can control a lot of the settings within the entire Fabric browser software as a service. There's also apps and other things that we can download directly from here that are free, like Power BI Desktop, data gateways, whether those be standard or organizational ones, paginator reports, Power BI for mobile, and then updates to analyze in Excel, or you can download Power BI for PowerPoint, or even a OneLake file explorer, which lets you navigate your OneLake files without actually being in the browser itself. So this is an app that gets downloaded on your machine. We connect into it, and then we can browse through those things. So if you're looking to, get access to your data without having to open up a browser experience, you can do that using the OneLake file explorer. Finally, there's some help and support topics. If our users need it, you can always provide feedback to help improve Fabric. And then you can see here that we're going through that there's different hubs, and this changes for different experiences. So down here are our experiences, right? And we'll go through these in another lesson, but these are all of our experiences within Fabric. And you can see here that when I'm in the Power BI experience, there's a few more things that are located in here. And when I change to a Fabric Data Factory experience, there's some other things that are located within here, but the ability for me to create these objects, right? Now that I do have Fabric enabled on this, I should be able to create this object, right? It's letting me create a new pipeline. If I went into a workspace that didn't have a capacity and I try to create something that's like a warehouse, it's going to tell me to upgrade to Fabric trial license, right? So different experiences on the side. When we're in these experiences, we just go to the home page and it takes me to the navigation for that particular experience. Several common things that we would do in each one of those, with Data Factory, with data engineering, with data science, with data warehousing, so on and so forth. So all of these are going to have common links that you can utilize, object creation, in general. So these are all general ones. And I think Power BI is the only one that has some more specific stuff for like deploying apps for reports and things like that. But that's how we navigate through the browser experience itself. So that kind of puts a wrap on what I wanted to show you here.
Let's head back into the studio.
Congratulations, detectives. You have successfully solved our analytics mysteries. You learned what Fabric is and why you need it, how data teams use Fabric to collaborate on data projects, and how to enable and use Fabric in your own organization. You also learned how Fabric leverages OneLake, a lake-centric architecture that allows you to read data from a single copy without moving or duplicating data. And you also learned about different Fabric experience like data factory, data engineering, to perform different data tasks and scenarios. Fabric is a powerful and flexible product that can help you solve any analytics mystery with a unified product experience, security and governance, compute and storage, and business model. Thanks for joining.